Good morning, my friends. I'm so grateful to be here this morning. I'm coming to you from Seattle, Washington, where I'm going to be for the next couple of months. I'm taking the blessing of COVID, which has put our whole world in sort of virtual space, as an opportunity to not necessarily need to be tied to a specific location for a moment, and using the opportunity to spend some time being in service to some people that I love who are really in need of some support. And so I'm going to be in Seattle for the next few months. And so we're coming in virtually this morning, as we're all virtual. So it kind of works out. So let's begin, as always, by taking a few breaths together. And so, if you will, take everything and let it out. Breathe in and let go. Take another deep breath in and let go. Together, let's take one more deep breath in and let go. And so our topic this morning is one mind, infinite connections. And I feel like in a big way, this title, this idea, one mind, infinite connections, this is the story of my spiritual life. This is the story of my search. That is, if I could sum up part of the way that my mind has been thinking since I was a very little child, it's always been about looking at the world, looking at my experience, looking at everything around me as being interrelated in some way, and looking for a unifying idea, looking for a unifying story, looking for unifying meaning, and seeing that every single thing that comes into my life, everything that I've experienced, every little thing that I learn, there's a place to plug it in to something else that I know or something else that I've experienced. And it's kind of that questioning, that sort of thinking, that I think led me to Science of Mind in the first place. For many years, I have talked before about, the years that I called my years of spiritual tourism, where, I was dancing Hare Krishna on Sunday afternoon, and in a Baha'i study group on Monday evening, and sitting zazen on Wednesday, and praying in the mosque on Friday, and doing it all over again while maintaining my own spiritual practice and studying and reading. And in the midst of all of that, asking this question of, how are all these things connected? Where are the access points for me? What is the deeper truth unifying all of this? And it was really that continuous exploration that eventually led me to Center for Spiritual Living, to New Thought, and to Science of Mind. Because it finally became a place where I could sit. Science of Mind, CSL, finally became a community and a philosophy for me that I could maintain my own spiritual belief systems, my own values, my own core intuitive nature and knowing, while also participating in a greater philosophical idea and, in a sense, a philosophical discussion with a whole community of individuals who are saying, all things are interrelated in some way. And somehow, even if it's unfathomable, underneath everything, it's all interconnected. It's all God. It's all bubbling up from the same source. And for me, that was a beautiful opportunity to plug all of my different spiritual experiences and my whole background into this idea that there is one mind, that we each have a unique ability to connect with, that comes through each one of us in a unique and interesting way. And that through that one mind, each one of us are our own particular connection. Each one of us are our own particular way through which that thing creates. And there's a passage in the early in the Science of Mind textbook, in the first 4 chapters, that we usually speak to sort of traditionally, and we used to traditionally speak to in January every year. And there's a passage that I have highlighted that I used to speak to often, and so I want to bring it in today. And it says that Ernest Holmes is speaking, and he says, some draw upon one type of knowledge, and some from another, but all from the same source, the source of all knowledge. The scientist discovers the principle of their science. The artist embodies the spirit of their art. The saint draws Christ's presence into their being, but all because they have courted a particular presence of some definite concept. That each state of consciousness taps into the same source, but has a different receptivity. Each receives what they ask for, according to their ability to embody. The universe is infinite. The possibility of differentiating is limitless. I've always loved that passage because to me it expresses this idea that yes, there is this one source of all things, one source of inspiration, one source of knowledge, one source of love, one source of light, one source, but that it channels through each one of us in unique and interesting ways. And that whether it is the scientist who's discovering a principle of nature, or whether it's the artist who is expressing some deep felt human experience into a perceivable form that others can take in, or whether it's the mystic courting the divine presence and tapping into Christ consciousness, God consciousness, Buddha consciousness, oneness, that all of those are tapping into the same core energetic field. And that allows me to then sort of fractalize that idea and realize that everything that is being created, everything that is coming through every one of us is like, I think of God as like the electricity, and each one of us being the lamp or the outlet or the light or the projector or the thing that the electricity is being channeled through and used for. And that one of the things Ernest Holmes sort of goes on and on and on about in the textbook a lot is that the universe is impartial, the universe is impersonal, that there is no sense in the universe that God wants something for us or needs something for us, and in my opinion really even cares that much. That I believe that the universe, that oneness, the God that we talk about, is so subtle and so deeply interwoven into everything that it's more like the quantum field, that it's the field of possibility, it's the field of consciousness. But everything that plays out of it or plays out within it or comes out of it is for the sake of variety, for the sake of experience, for the sake of evolution, for the sake of continuous and emerging complexity. And I believe that all of our individual life experiences, all of the spiritual traditions that have come before us, have all been seeking out all of the different ways that humanity can connect with the divine, that humanity can seek divine consciousness. And one of the things that I love about that passage that I read from Ernest Holmes a moment ago is that he says that each one of the mystic, the artist, and the saint, or the saint, the mystic, the artist, and the scientist, that they all discover an element of the truth, a particular piece of the truth that's coming through them, but it's because they courted a particular principle. They courted a particular presence. And I love that idea of courting the divine, of courting an idea, of being allured and attracted to a concept, to a process, to a vision, to a goal, to a dream, to a self that exists within us, and seeking it and developing a relationship with it and building a life that is alluring to the experience that we're calling in. And that each one of us are filled with desires. Each one of us have varied backgrounds, histories, and experiences that inform who we are. And I believe that this call, the recognition that there is, yes, one mind, but it comes through these infinite connections. That each one of us really claim, know, and declare for ourselves that we are a unique expression within that infinitude. And that everything that we come with, all the stuff that we might call our baggage, our history, our traumas, our pain, our dreams, our visions, our goals, all of it shapes the way that that one source, that one current comes through us as an individual. And in my synthesis work, I often invite people to look for a project to look for something that's stirred up in them, to look for something that's calling them. Whether that's a desire for a relationship, a desire to bring out a greater, more authentic version of themselves, or to build a business, or to start a project, or to redecorate their house, whatever it is, choose something. And then begin to move your whole life, your whole belief system, all of your practices, everything that you engage in, as if you are courting that thing, as if you want to allure it, as if you want to become it, as if you want to allow it to grow and nurture it to become something more, and just feed it with all of your energy, all of your attention, and become the presence, become the thing itself. That's when you open up to be the channel for spirit to then create that thing through you, as you, easily, to get ourselves out of the way enough to actually let something else come in. And that it's so incredibly important for each one of us to honor our own individual process. That we are unique, individualized expressions that can never be recreated, that can never be duplicated. And to recognize that each one of us has such an incredible value to add to the world, to add to creation, to add to consciousness. But we have to do it on purpose. We have to participate. And so if we can find one thing that we want to focus on, even if it seems simple, and let that continuously draw on us and become the center of our focus, what happens is anything that we focus on starts to expand and take over more of our attention, more of our awareness. When we start to recognize something, the pattern shows up in our brain, and then we start to see that pattern elsewhere in the world, and we start to look for the connections. We start to notice the connections. We start to see that the thing that we've been focusing on can plug into this, can plug into that, can be applied here, can be applied there, might invite this person in, that person in, create this experience for us. That each one of us has our own individualized, unique way of connecting to the source of all things. And it's through our attention, it's through our intention, it's through our prayer, it's through our meditation. It's really what we give our life force to. And as we look into a world where we are becoming increasingly connected to each other, to the environment, to all things, and it is undeniable at this point how interconnected we are. That indeed we are so interconnected as a human family, as a human biological organism, that something so insignificantly microscopic and invisible can be transferred between us and travel around the planet in a matter of what seemed like weeks or even days, and changed everything. That indeed, if we look, we are so overwhelmingly connected to each other, to the planet, to the universe, that quite literally the particles of who we are were born in stars. That the molecules that we are made of have risen out of the body of the earth itself. That the ocean is coursing through our veins. That the rocks and the minerals in the soil make up our bones and our muscles. We know from Lynn McTaggart's work in The Power of Eight that any time we focus on the same thing at the same time, just by you looking at the screen and listening to me, and me being here, knowing that focusing on you and our community, that our brains start to link up, that a similar frequency starts to be created, that some that supra-neurological connection begins to happen between us, and we start to feel connected. Neurotheology, which is one of the studies of sort of spiritual experience in the brain, will show that anytime someone has a spiritual experience and a certain process happens in the brain, and that individual is able to connect with a higher idea, that their individualized and unique perception will form what comes through that mental portal. And so a Hindu might see Krishna as where a Christian might see Jesus or Mary, and one of us might see our higher self or an ancestor. It's through our own unique perception, through our own particular individuality, that we perceive everything, and that everything around us is being filtered through our own unique connection to Source. But we have to realize that in those individualized and unique connections, we are also inextricably interconnected and interwoven with each other and with everything around us. And we've been saying this a lot recently, but I really believe that the next level of science of mind, the evolution that we all need to participate in, is moving from a me-centered philosophy, where I'm looking for my own individual connection to Source and my portal to abundance and happiness, and start shifting that to a we-centered philosophy, where we start to look at how interconnected we are, and each one of us takes on the responsibility where we say, wait a minute, my desires, my intentions, my dreams, my drive, my choices has an impact on other people that I don't know, that I can't see, has an impact on the planet, has an impact on the environment, might even have a drastic impact on the future. And that we recognize that each one of us is participating in continuous ripples and waves of creation. And the more that we are conscious of the connections we have between each other and the planet, between all of life and the universe, the more that we seek the awareness of interconnection, the more that we seek the awareness of interdependence, the more that we seek the awareness that each one of us is participating in this field of creation with each other, and that all of our manifestations are pouring over each other. That all of the good that each one of us is seeking is part of a balanced system. That we have to realize that what we ask for ourselves and what we want for others must be in alignment with what we say and what we do, with who we truly say that we are. To realize that every choice that we make is intricately interwoven into a whole web of ripples that moves out into the world. There are an infinite number of access points to God. And Ernest Holmes says that if you want to find your access point, if you want to open the doorway for Spirit to pour through the uniqueness that is you, to begin to court a particular principle, to find a particular idea or passion or dream or work in the world or question that you're willing to just wholly pour yourself into, and find where that brings you to the doorway to God and to the place of connection and interconnection. Find your unique access point to the one, and then allow that energy to come through you and become your life, so that then each one of us can start to look out and say, okay, now that I am realizing the way to bring life through me so that I can be a greater expression of the one, how can I now connect with others and draw others into the same sense of awakening and empowerment for themselves, so that we can continuously lift each other up and bring into reality, participate in the building, in the choosing, in the action of this idea where we say we want to see a world that works for everyone. Well, then let's call in a world that is about thriving, about interconnected thriving, where we are all in this together. And so, my friends, I invite you this week to begin to look to the call of your heart and ask, what is your portal? What is your access point? What is your principle? Your question? You're willing to begin to pour yourself into more and more and more. And then as you do so, begin to look for those in the world who you can connect with and engage in the same process. Begin to look for your connections to life, your connections to spirit, your connections to all that is. So let us just breathe into this moment. Take a deep breath and let go. And let us just be in the awareness together once more that there is indeed only one thing happening. That one thing is the universe, that it is the quantum field of infinite potential, that it is life, that it is consciousness. I call it God. But what I know is that there is something greater than myself that breathes my body. There is some life force that I live and breathe in service to. And so let each one of us just bring into our hearts and minds and knowingness that whatever the deep call of our heart is is that which is calling us forward to become the answer to a prayer that the universe has beckoned us to live into. Let each one of us look for our connection, our access point, our doorway to God, so that we can open up that which is seeking to be expressed through us and live from a place of inner connection to all of life, recognizing that all that we do, all that we think, all that we act upon, all that we participate with affects the world around us, affects individuals in our world, affects our environment, and affects the future of all life itself. And so let us each be a place of powerful, intentional action, activity of consciousness, so that what we do and who we become and what we bring into the world is uplifting, is awakening. Let each one of us be the bearers of truth and of light, and offer a way to live in service to a power for good in this universe that is greater than we are. And let it live through us, and let each one of us be a place where it happens on purpose. And so it is. Peace and blessings, my friends.